everybody. Elizabeth Copeland, pro trader here at Verified Investing. Thanks for joining me on this wonderful Tuesday evening. Today, I'm going to go over a few currencies. We're going to take about 8 to 10 minutes to go over about 4 charts, and we'll look at some long-term levels and short-term levels. I know we've got both trader types here, so make sure to let me know below what kind of trader type are you, a swing trade, long-term holder, or maybe more of a day trader. I'm always interested to see who is trading the currencies. So let's check out these currency charts, shall we? Let's first start with the DXY, the dollar, the US dollar index. Interestingly enough, the dollar, here's how I've mapped it out, is in this upward trend here for the last several weeks. This is the weekly chart, topping out right around April of 85, back up at 164. Now, we're not quite up there yet. Not quite. We've got a pivot high here, a pivot high at 120, and our most recent pivot high happened more recently on September of 2022. Now, since then, we have taken a little bit of a drop. Not a huge drop by any means, but, a drop nevertheless. We've got a nice 16% drop since the highs of September 2022. And if you zoom out again, yeah, we're not near those highs, but we are near this pivot at 120. So we do have some upside. That actually corresponds pretty well with this upsloping trend line that does connect some pivot highs from April of 09, March and April of 15, February of 17, and then again of September 2022. And then we have some pivot lows. We're actually closer to the bottom of this upsloping trend line on the base here. So let's look at the daily. We actually have a weekly bottoming tail, but what's interesting, and that was kind of around here, but what was interesting about this chart is the number of hits it's taken on this upsloping parallel channel. We can call that a kiss once, twice, but it does come back here and hit quite a few times, really breaks through, but I wouldn't call that a confirmed breakout, especially if you look at the weekly and more for long term holders. So we did have a couple of bounces. What I do suspect is that, yes, we did have a nice bounce from, we were 3% down and had a bounce. The harder the fall, the harder the bounce. But once you start getting more frequent bounces, once we start retesting this trend line right down here at the 96 to 97 level, that's where we could see a breakdown. Now, what I would like to see as a conservative trader myself, it depends on what you want to do with your capital. But if we do break down, as a conservative trader, what I like to do is see it retrace this line and push down. I would like to get in on that retrace. I do stop above or try to stop above when it pops back in because it can fake you out pretty quickly if we don't have a confirmed breakdown retrace. So what happens here with aggressive traders, they get in thinking, oh, this is it. It's the breakdown. And what happens in the next 4 days? Well, that's that currency goes up, about 1.96%. The DXY goes at 1.96%. So the currency is obviously at some key technical levels here, something just very interesting to keep an eye out for. If it does break this low right here, I would really like to see it break down lower, because what happens here, and not for any necessary reasons, I want to see it break down lower, just for technical reasons, is what happens here is that's a bit of a gap fill at Tuesday close. Not a huge one by any means, but it is significant in that it fell and went right back up. So any kind of person who was short right here is now out of the money about 5%. And that would be significant for this currency. So if you're right here and you see this breakdown and touch here, it's actually a nice level. But keep in mind, if you go and buy it here, that retrace is possible back up to this trend line. So that's just a note of hesitation or caution for you. Nothing to keep you from doing what you're going to do, but just a note of caution there for you. But I do like that level for support temporarily, at least, if we can get a breakdown. But again, as a conservative trader, I like to see a breakdown, confirmed breakdown, and then a retrace to this level before a further move to the downside. So that is something to watch there on the currency DXY. Now let's look at some Forex, some exchanges between USD and Canada dollar, the USD yen, and the Euro USD. So we've got a lot to look at there. Let's first start with the USD Canadian dollar. USD Canadian dollar has been trading in this wedge-like pattern for a while. This trend line has been holding since July of 2023, this green one, this area of what was support, or what continues to be support, at least at this point. And this downsloping trend line would be an area of resistance or continued resistance. So What would I like to see? Great question. Well, we have this trend line. It has bounced off several times. And again, the harder the fall, the harder the bounce. Look at this 3% move down on this exchange and then back up 1.8 on the USDCAD. Same here, nice downfall up, just recently pushed back up. And then same thing, another long or wide range red bar candle push right into that trend line and bounce up. Now, what you notice here is recently 1, 2, 3, 4 touches since the early parts of this year. That's a lot of touches of this trend line in a very short amount of time. Yeah, we had a couple back here, but look at how it reinforced itself. Once, twice, look at the time it has not touched, and then touches 4 times within a year. That's pretty significant, and that's why I'm watching this bottom trend line for certain for any potential breakdown that would occur. So what I would like to see here, very similar to the DXY, is a fall over, a break, because what's going to happen is that if this currency, the exchange, comes down and just holds across this line right here and consolidates, that is a higher likelihood for a breakdown. So that is what I would like to see, is not a straight bounce up, because again, it could still bounce. I mean, just because it's hit a number of times doesn't mean it will break through, just higher the probability. We're based off of probabilities here. But we do have a potential for a rollover here, especially with this resistance right at 1.368 because of this wide range red bar candle. What I'd like to see is it come down, kind of consolidate around this level, maybe touch it 1, 2, 3, 4 more times just in a month or two, and then boom, a breakdown. Now, where I would like to see this go is a breakdown and then retrace this line and then push back. So you're kind of getting the gist of how I play some of these, right? So a nice little breakdown there of USDCAD, and then a retrace for a move to the downside further with any kind of stop back up in this trend line of the green trend line. Any kind of confirmed break back into that green trend line would negate my theory, and therefore I would get out of that. So that's the USD Canadian dollar. Let's look at the USD yen though. Another interesting chart. The USD yen. Wow, pivot highs just recently, not all-time highs, but pivot highs up at 161.952. That happened on July of 2024, July 2nd of 2024. It's not quite there yet. Not quite there yet, but I do like that area for a level of resistance. Where it's at now is closer to 154.8, and it's pushing up. We got a three-tail theory here, which is a good a good bull sign, especially at the lows right here after this big fall. But what I want to see happen is a push right back up in this level at the 163.6 level. This wide range, very wide range red bar candle. I mean, that's pretty nice one. Down 3% on the day at 2.46 later. There we go. So we have that retrace potential to the top of that red bar candle at 163.6. I would really like to see some rollover there. That's that first place I'd watch. And luckily, because we have resistance ahead, I'd be more confident in that level because we have more resistance overhead, more areas for a pullback. So this will be a level I'm watching on the USDJPY, that 163.64 level, followed by 161.952. Now, the only thing I would caution you is if we break above this just with force on both of these and it continues higher, that's where we could potentially see a run to the upside. So any kind of break of a pivot high and a push, confirmed push, that's where things get a little more bullish. So where things could be bearish at once become bullish if they continue to that push with authority higher. Obviously they're pushing, so yes, they're bullish, but also they break that pivot. It kind of gives them almost a momentum play there, especially where we've seen stocks, at least over the last couple of days. We've seen it happen there. Currencies are no different when we look at those charts. So the last thing I'll look at here is the Euro USD. The Euro USD is also in a wedge, an upsloping wedge pattern, hitting once, twice, 3 times in 2025, January, February, March. Didn't quite hit in March, but it had a nice rip up to the upside and then fell right back down. It's hit a few times here. If you can guess how I would play this, good for you. You've been paying attention. I'd play this on a nice break to the downside, and then you'll never guess it. That's right, a retrace. I like this a lot right here. But it also, because this is an upsloping trend line and this is upsloping trend line, the breakdown probability a little higher down here in retrace, where another great level, because we have a wide range red bar candle and pivot high right here. I really like this upsloping trend line for an entry as it touches with a stop above, confirmed above this upsloping trend line. So that will be a day of trading above, and then a close and a close above that the second day, right? That confirmation, I'd stop out there. But I do like this upsloping trend line. It has held for quite some time since this pivot high of 2023. I really like it a lot, especially since it kissed here, hit here, and here. I would like to see it pierce there to get an entry, an even better entry before a breakdown occurs. So I like that a lot. Something I'm watching on the Euro USD. So hopefully that will help you out in some of your trading. I know we've gone a little long, but thank you so much for joining me on those currencies. Let me know what you trade below as far as currencies, Forex. I'd love to look at some of those charts that you trade and maybe go over them for you for next time. So until then, have a great day, everybody.